I will start our meeting because I don't know whether it's anybody who is joining us as a host. I don't see anybody who will be joining us, so I will start our meeting. It's the second meeting within the training program Responsible and Ethical AI for Future Actions. This meeting will be about global governance of AI and ethical principles. So I am going to outline the elements of this global governance of AI, but let me introduce myself briefly. I am an assistant professor from Maastricht University and also a research associate from the United Nations University, UNU Merit. So it's United Nations University. It's a global framework of institutes linking different topics, working basically nowadays towards the sustainable development goals. And if I remember correctly, our project is precisely about sustainable development goals. I am working on this governance of AI since a couple of years, but maybe I am also you can know me that I am here for the purpose of ethical principles introduction, and also to put it into the global governance framework. So the first thing, Stephen Hawking, the physicist who considered artificial intelligence is likely to be either the best or the worst thing to happen to humanity. So this is the big palette of possibilities, worst or best, but I will just give you, to start our meeting, two examples of what can be wrong and what can be good when we talk about artificial intelligence. The thing can be good, which is an example of a project which is developed by United Nations Development Program, World Food Program, UN Stata, Google Innovation Accelerator, etc. DISHA is a scale for damage assessment and the socioeconomic mapping. This uses artificial intelligence and satellite imagery. It conducts the analysis in real-time insights and actionable intelligence for effective decision-making during disaster response. What is happening with this tool, with the artificial intelligence, is 13 times faster and 77% cheaper in near real-time post-disaster building damage assessment. And scale tools, can be used from shrinking the time that we need to use from 3 weeks of manual damage assessment to just 24 hours. And this is the example in Turkey. Last year, this tool was developed by the UNDP and WFP to assess damage and assist with resource allocation. For 1 month, 5 people were deployed, and they could assess 600,000 buildings with the assurance of 81% with 28,000 heavily damaged or destroyed structures. In the rapid analysis of urban zone, it's only 400 square kilometers of urban zone. The analysis included 1.5 million people, and it happened in less than a week. And this urban zone, we could assess 265,000 buildings with assessment of 7,000 structure damaged, and everything was conducted on the area of 5 million people. And we are talking about 1 month deployment of 5 people. It's using this kind of methodology and this kind of tool to assess the damage of the infrastructure. This is good. This is bad. This is the Netherlands example when algorithmic use of algorithms in the Dutch administration, in particular in the social services, led to thousands of people where they were not allowed to be a part of the social service, but besides that, people were kicked out. Let's say they were in debt to repay social debt that they were not having, but also many families, for example, they were put and children they were put in the houses in the situation of the houses not for the families. That was the issue, which that Dutch scandal was a warning for the Europes to not use and not rely on algorithms. It was the signing point that we shouldn't always use algorithms to assess, for example, very sensitive social intervention, social subsidies to the families. This is the big example. So what we can do in these cases, we need to do AI and governance framework to try to assess how we can deploy these tools to benefit the good things and to let's say limit bad things. And just to have a good overview of the situation, the artificial intelligence as such is not very old concept. It's only artificial intelligence is the first time it was used in the 65 last century, and then several different types of tools were deployed, but most of the time in the 70s and the 80s there was not too many tools which were used for the development because of the lack, for example, of computer capacity. But since basically 1975, we can start talking about again a different type of artificial intelligence tools which were launched to the market, and they were used more and more with different results. So we have iPhone, but also we have, since last 10 years, we have different types of, for example, virtual assistant, Siri, Google Now, Cortana, Alexa. We have deep learning frameworks like TensorFlow, Keras. We have also AlphaGo, defeats Champion Listodo, but we have also AI and ML-driven software modifications. And now in 2020, we have in the GPT-3, it was launched as the most advanced language model, large language model on the market. Now we have also 4, which is the weight or that can be used by different actors, companies, but also private people who want to have very solid tools. So this is the quick recovery. AI is responsive, decisive, adaptive, and independent. What does it mean? AI can engage in interactions from human and other machines, interpreting meanings and formulating an appropriate response. AI is decisive, can interpret supplied information and take appropriate action, can be adaptive, can internalize new information and adjust its behavior according to maximize its effectiveness. And finally, it can be also independent, can conduct most of its decision-making processes without the need for human input. So there are different elements of this AI, but one of the, I think, crucial is that this is disassociated with the intervention of human beings. So next element is we have artificial intelligence, new type of tool to deal with the computer and also data. But now we have also definition of governance. I would take Cohen and the definition of governance, which is basically settlement of social affairs in polity. In this case, it is global polity, and governance is the process and institutions, both formal and informal, that guide and restrain the collective activities of a group. Governance not need to be necessarily conducted exclusively by governments and the international organizations. It can be also delegated with authority. Private firms, association of firms, NGOs, etc., can participate in governance. What it brings about to the analysis of AI governance is that this concept of governance, it allows to look at governance as referring not only to activity or process of decision making, broader than government. It's governance, which includes, as I said, other actors. It's not only governance. Articulates how interests are accommodated and power is exercised in a society. It includes formal and informal rules, hierarchical and non-hierarchical forms, and also it includes political processes that exist between institutions. So there are broader elements of understanding how AI is governed. Now, the second element of understanding AI governance is about ethical principles. Ethical principles, basically, this is the current landscape of the ethical regulations. It's not, most of the time, it's not legally binding, but it's mostly persuasive in nature. These are also ethical guidance on technology, and they include many times very significant influence on decision-making comparable to legislative norms. And then this is also ethical principles shape the ethics of AI in line with the priorities. And then this is the problem that many countries, many actors, they want to have a little bit different types of priorities. But also, and this is also very important in the AI governance, that private actors participate in this process. So this is my the general ethical principles, but I would like to also introduce, and I think you should recall this understanding of ethical principles, which is coming from the recommendations of the ethics of artificial intelligence proposed by UNESCO. AI ethics, according to this document, is a normative reflections on, and this includes 4 elements: holistic, comprehensive, multicultural, and evolving framework for interdependence, values, principles, and actions. The second element is guide societies in dealing with responsible with known and unknown impacts of AI technologies, human beings, societies, but also on environment and ecosystems. So it's not only on people, but also on the planet. This also includes offering the basis to accept or reject AI technologies. Ethical principles are basically to distinguish between good and bad. I started with good and bad, and I think ethical principles is to allow us to be able to distinguish between good and bad use of technology. And finally, the element of these ethical principles from the recommendations is a dynamic basis for the normative evolution and guidance of AI technologies, which refers to human dignity, well-being, prevention of harm, and as a compass and are rooted in the ethics of science and technologies. So these are the basic understanding of ethical principles coming from the United Nations, in particular from UNESCO. I think it is worth of keeping in mind this understanding, because ethical principles, they can be very different, very different approaches can be understand. So I think I have my okay, and next element is also variety of ethical principles. Now, I have two presentations of the different approaches, how many different countries in the world uh, reclaim using ethical principles in the use of the AI technology. This is the database from 2020. You have 84 documents from private companies, governments, research institutes, but you can see already that most of the ethical principles guidelines were focused on Western Europe and also United States and Canada. Some of them, they were used in Korea, Japan, Australia, India, but very few. But basically, it is Australia, it is Japan, Korea, and also Western Europe and the United States and Canada. And what we can see that is the equivalence between companies and governments, more or less the same number of documents that they were preparing, plus research institutes, international organizations. The next variety of ethical principles, 2020, most of the ethical principles, they were focusing on two, three, four, transparency. It's about explainability, transparency, explicability, understandability, etc. Justice and fairness, non-maleficencies, security, safety, harm, protection. These are elements of safety, and responsibility, accountability, liability. These are the four most important. Then we have privacy, benefits, and freedom. Important, plus trust, and sustainability, dignity, and solidarity are the less important. So what is important here, that we have transparency as the basic element of ethical principles for the ethical network, ethical systems around the globe. Then we have also justice and fairness, maleficencies, and responsibility to caution against this risk of transparency. And then we have also guidelines to prevent harm rather than explore benefits. So AI in this approach is a little bit more focusing on preventing harm, preventing the malfunctioning of these tools. Then we have also sustainability, dignity, and solidarity are underrepresented. But we have another set of different, more extended systems of ethical principles of AI. It's more geographically distributed. There are different countries, not only Western Europe, but also Brazil, Argentina, Korea, Colombia, Russia, Japan, South Korea, China, of course. So we have different countries, but what we can see also that we have government institutions and private corporations, as in the previous said, this was going one to one. They have different the same number of ethical principles guidelines. Then we have NGOs, non-profit organizations, academics, and international organizations. What we can see here also is that very double, more than double the number of the ethical principles guidelines, but the same results. We have as the best, the most important is transparency, explainability, and audibility, which is basically the most cherished by the government institutions, that they want to have transparent systems. Plus, we have also reliability, safety, security, trustworthiness, justice, equity, fairness, and non-discrimination. And then there is privacy, accountability, freedom. What is important that for example, governments, they want to focus on transparent system, private corporation on reliability of the systems, and civil society organization, NGOs, focus on fairness. So we can see three elements of the system. They are not aligned. Each of the elements is focusing on a little bit different element principles. Do you have any question maybe at this one? Is there anybody who wants to? No. Okay. So let's look for the next taxonomy of AI governance, AI global governance frameworks. So we have basically in the international role, there are two different tendencies. We have global and transnational and national levels of governance. They coexist, but what is more than important is to understand that AI creates externalities which do not follow national borders. They do not follow national borders because they extend beyond, they transpire beyond the national borders. AI, by definition, is cross-border because of the use of data, because of the use of algorithms, because of the effects of these tools. So big tech corporations, they have transboundary jurisdictions. And what is important here in global governance of artificial intelligence is the approach to avoid negative externalities by overlooking safety issue, system to avoid negative externalities by trying to keep under control AI technologies. And how it's done in global governance? It's different types of documents, different types of commitments, different types of commitments by countries, but also private actors. And global governance of AI involves soft and hard governance measures. So it can be what I just explained, principles, but it can be also involving codes of conduct, standards, regulatory approaches, legislative approaches. But what you can see here with the number of different documents approved, we can see 2018-19, which is a peak of national governance governments papers, strategies, etc. But now we have a little bit of peak of international organizations which are trying to catch up after the international national governments developed their own strategies. What is important here, that there are three approaches to understand the the development of the international global governance regulations. On the one hand, it can be reinterpreted. So simple include there is for example a basic law about international humanitarian law, for example, when there is not allowed to attack private and civilians during the conflicts, and without any change in this framework, this reinterpretation nowadays includes also new cases without changing the rules. For example, using the artificial intelligence tools in the conflict, it will be in Gaza, and it includes also that even if it's artificial intelligence mediated, it is the responsibility of people who allowed to this tool to be employed. So this is one thing. The second thing is the inclusion to the existing rules, for example, 1978 Vienna Road Traffic Convention, and reinterpretation of different elements of automatic drives, driving by automatic cars. So who is responsible, how it works, etc. It is nowadays also very much debated to extend different cases of different uses of AI in different sphere of communication, sphere of debate, of different, for example, health, education, social subsidies, etc. All these elements can be included in this in this reinterpretation of rules. But there is also new tendency. I think it's dominating. It's the creation of absolutely new framework, new, for example, in the European Union, new EU AI Act, which is to explain and to frame the AI, artificial intelligence, in a completely new law. So this is the three elements of how we can reinterpret, how we can use different AI rules, and then I will look at the different elements, how they are working. So, for example, there is horizontal and vertical regulations. On the one hand, the horizontal regulation is covering several policy areas. It can be European Union AI Act, it can be UNESCO recommendations on the ethics of AI, or it can be also OECD principles on AI. I will talk about them a little bit later. Then we have also vertical regulation focusing on specific very narrow issue areas. For example, it could be focus group on artificial intelligence for health towards the global initiative on AI for health, which is the collaboration between ITU, WHO, and WIPO. Vertical and horizontal, broad and narrow area and scope of regulation. Then we can also look at the authority position of the actors. On the one hand, we can look, and there is still nothing like that, but it can be a possibility that, for example, centralization, there will be a single and authoritative institutions at the heart of the different institutions. And nowadays we are talking about high-level working group on AI, which is launched in October 2023 by the Secretary General of the United Nations, and may consider that body. But this is not true, because they are only operating, and they are trying to prepare some advice. Nowadays, there is nothing clear. Now, at the same time, we have also decentralized body, parallel and partly overlapping institution. But we have, for example, UNESCO is leading the process, but with many other global and regional bodies. So there will be decentralized type of institutions. Then we have a legal position. On the one hand, we have hard law and domestic status. Most of the time, we are looking at nowadays at EU AI Act is the first international framework for AI governance, which will be implemented in coming months because it's still not implemented because it was approved only a few weeks ago. But also there are many ongoing processes of emerging a national law adopted to AI, but this is not very progressive and very, very developed process of law. Now, most of the time, we talk about soft law, guidelines, recommendations, resolutions, standards, opinion, ethical principles, code of conduct, etc. And they are, as we already saw, they are focusing on ethical principles, but not on serious ethical responsibilities. Then finally, we can also look at the public uh, private and public regulations. Private regulations, for example, develops non-building guidelines, for example, private standardization bodies, and also public regulation developed as the universal framework to be implemented by countries, the states and public bodies involved in this process. And then there is also kind of shadow of the state hierarchy to rely on these processes. And finally, we can also look at the division between military and non-military regulations. On the one hand, we have military, very few undertakings to work on military regulations of AI, which is a very special category to regulate difficult and it's difficult to negotiate. There is a group of governmental experts on the regulations of lethal arms and weapons, which is not going too well. It's automatized. Well, this is not very well because there are several yearly consultations, but it is not progressing. Then we have. It will be in this year, second summit of reliable artificial intelligence in military domain by Dutch South Korean initiative, and there is also U.S. political declaration. There was a meeting in the United States to give some a little bit some institutionalization of these processes, but autonomous weapons they are not very well regulated. We are very at the beginning of this process. And then we have also non-military areas of the public policy, which are not related to security military elements. So these are the ways to approach the military non-military regulations. And now I will give you a couple of examples of how AI governance works in practice. This is the only last week. Only last year. I will not go into the debate because they are in different stages. But I would like to, for you, for this program, I would like to draw attention to ASEAN Guide on AI Governance and Ethics. This is a first comprehensive document which develops how these countries from ASEAN will work with AI governance and ethics. But besides that, we have also, for example, 2 weeks ago, General Assembly adopted a landmark resolution on artificial intelligence. We have also worked on the continental strategy for Africa. We have also finalized the work on the EU AI Act in December. AI Safety Summit, which took place in November, REAIM, which took place in February last week. So many initiatives which are working, which are trying to coordinate countries around the globe in order to extract some benefits from this technology, but also stop or at least limit the dangers coming from this technology. But the most important, I think, at this moment, document, which is the universal document, is the recommendations on the ethics of artificial intelligence, adopted in November 21. It took place half 1 year and a half when the member states of the UNESCO established an ad hoc group to prepare a draft. They went through different multi-stakeholder consultation. They prepared the comments on the first draft. They prepared the comments on the second draft. And in the April-June 2021, member states negotiate this document and adopted this document in November. So it was quite quick for the international dynamics of negotiations. And what I can see here, this is my own analysis, that the countries participating in this process, they were very, very much polarized according to different types of priorities and different types of towards the document, there are different types of preferences to defend. Some of them, they were more liberal, others, they were much more communitarian. But what we can see here, that there is no international cleavage across different coalitions, but it is very much distributed across the globe. What this UNESCO implies, it's for the global consensus of AI ethics. It includes 4 values. Values of respect, protection, and promotion of human rights and fundamental freedoms and human dignity, and environment and ecosystem flourishing, ensuring diversity and inclusiveness, and living in peaceful, just, and interconnected societies. And we have also 10 principles: proportionality and do not harm, safety and security, fairness and non-discrimination, sustainability, right to privacy and data protection, human oversight and determination, transparency and explainability, responsibility and accountability, awareness and literacy, and multi-stakeholder and adaptive governance and collaboration. Looking at these principles, of course, you can very clearly reflect these principles in the previous slide that I explained, the overall tendency, how AI ethics are progressing, what are the most important elements. Here it's 7th principle, it's the principle 7, transparency and explainability, but also we are looking at safety and security, fairness, justice, and also sustainability, right to privacy. So they are the core elements of this AI principles in the world. Then these UNESCO recommendations, they have 11 areas. 2 of them are basically to ethical impact assessment, ethical governance and stewardship, and then we have data policy, development, international cooperation, environment and ecosystem, gender, culture, education, communication, information, economy and labor, health and social well-being. So these are the elements of policies which are governed by this document. So you can see that now, of course, military is not here involved. And what we can see here, this is the most universal document in the world, because there are everybody which is except Gaza and Taiwan, adhered to these recommendations, endorsed. Now, how many of these countries really implemented, it's another story. I can see that clearly not too many countries were implementing this document. Most of the countries which were most attached to this is from Latin America, so Canada, Mexico, but also Egypt, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, South Africa. So these are the elements of the plus Korea and Japan, and What is the country which is implementing this? So, of course, yes. Okay, nobody will talk.
No?
Yeah?
Right. Myanmar. When you
Yes.
say it's Myanmar.
Yes. Okay, so this is not very relevant, but most of the countries in the world are not implementing this document nowadays. Next element of the international governance is OECD, Organization for Economic and Cooperation Cooperation, OECD, Organization of Economic and Collaboration and Development. It is about document which was already agreed in 2019, and this is also a very important document because this gives a very important definition what is AI system. AI systems is a machine-based system that can, for explicit or implicit objectives, infers from the output it receives how to generate outputs such as prediction, content, recommendations, or decision that can influence physically or virtual environments. Different AI systems vary in their levels of autonomy and adaptiveness after deployment. So this is updated and a definition of AI principles, which was updated in October 2023. This document, OECD, it's basic. 2019 was approved, and it's divided again: value-based principles, ethical principles. It's about inclusive growth, sustainable development and well-being, human-centered values and fairness, transparency and explainability, robustness, security and safety, and accountability. So principles and recommendation for policymakers, which is about investing in AI, fostering digital ecosystem for AI, providing and enabling policy environments for AI, building human capacity and preparing for labor market transition, and international cooperation for trustworthy AI. So 5 principles, 5 recommendations for policymakers. And these principles are implemented not only by the members of the OECD, which basically cover Western Europe, United States, Canada, and several Latin American countries, but also it's covered by, for example, countries like Australia, India, Saudi Arabia, but also China, Korea, which are members of G20, which is broader framework for collaboration, and these countries endorsed these principles. So it's very important that OECD, it was part of the general expansion of the idea of how we should govern AI. How many countries are implementing OECD? This is another story. It's again a few countries like Canada, France, but also South Korea and Japan. Many countries they are implementing partially, and few countries are not implementing at all, according to the data that we have. The next stage is about G7 framework, which is discussed already since 2016 at minister and leaders level. And then 2016 includes a vision for human-centric AI for innovation and growth, and Charleroi common vision for the future of AI in 2018. Plus, we have Hiroshima AI process 2023, which includes GI leader statements, Hiroshima Process International Guiding Principles for Organization, and Hiroshima Process International Code of Conduct for organization developing advanced AI systems. I will not go into that because we are running out of time, but this is 12 principles for generative AI. And finally, I would like to include also in our overview of the global governance of AI, also European Union AI Act, which has four basic principles. One is about safety and respect of existing law on fundamental rights and union values. The second is to facilitate investment and innovation. The third is about enforcement of existing law on fundamental rights and safety requirements applicable to AI, and also single market for lawful, safe, and trustworthy AI applications. What does it mean? That this AX Act proposes harmonized rule for the 27 members of the European Union for the placing on the market the systems, the AI tools, and they have to meet strict requirements. There are prohibition of certain artificial intelligence to be placed on the market. There are specific requirements for high-risk AI systems that producers have to meet before they are on the market, and they also harmonize transparency rules of certain AI systems, rules on market monitoring, surveillance, and governance, and finally measures in support of innovation. So it's about market, it's about protection of some systems are not being allowed to be put in the European Union. Some of the have to be very meet some very strict criteria. And you can see that unacceptable risks are prohibited, and then we have high risk and AI with specific transparency obligations. So everything is based on risk assessment. And then there are several elements, prohibited systems, which are basically about social scoring based on social behavior or personal characteristics, biometric categorization using sensitive characteristics, political, religious, sexual, subliminal techniques, manipulation, deception, exploiting the vulnerabilities of people due to the characteristics, emotion recognition in the workplace and education institutions, and finally, untargeted scrapping of facial images and from the internet of CCTV. High risk are also about biometrics, critical infrastructure, education and vocational training, employment, workers management, and access to self-employment, access to enjoyment of essential private services and public services and benefits, law enforcement, migration, asylum, border control management, administration of justice and democratic processes. All of these elements, basically, they are trying to focus to avoid the abuse of these tools in relation to the fundamental rights and human rights of the in the European Union. So it's about how we cannot, for example, in the European Union, accept some kind of tools which are deceiving human behavior, which are conducting people to behave in a way that are even for them undesirable. Okay, and then final element of this panel of this document, which is, as I said, approved in March. It's about penalties. So those who are, for example, want to use prohibited artificial intelligence according to the Article 5, they can and they should pay 35 million euro, or, this is very much important, up to 7% of its total worldwide annual turnover for the preceding financial year. So many countries, few corporations, they, of course, they have much more than 35 million, but they precisely with 7%, they will be dissuaded to put on the market and in the European Union. So some of the elements, some of the tools which are prohibited. Then we have also, for example, different types of different systems for the financial, for the high risk, etc., and also for the not being informed. Finally, this is the final element, but I would like to also invite you, if you have any kind of chat consideration, to participate. Okay, I see that the Anandani had a question: are there any impactful policies for preventing pornographic content generated with AI? In principle, they are basically to detect. This is the United Nations agency which detects real pornographic content, but we don't have nowadays specific say tools which can be applied worldwide. Okay, can we have the slide presentation to learn more about AI, and what does the AI principle shall be implemented? Because it seems that there are many principles coming from the EU as AAA. Well, there are for sure. Of course, there are different types of the principles. Different countries, different frameworks. They have different ways to do it, but then of course there is a global AI approach of UNESCO. Who should take a main responsibility for creating good AI governance at the country level? Where should we begin if we want to develop the good governance? It depends on the country. Usually we are talking about countries which have very clear digital industry say competences, and they are placing this element in this type of ministries and agencies. They work together also with different types of academia, of industry, of civil society organizations, that they can create some kind of multi-stakeholder approach to this collaboration. Well, maybe I have also one element to add to the Sirirat. Also, there is the question to what extent the AI principles shall be implemented, because there are many principles. There are many principles, but if you look at these principles, many of them, they are more or less similar, because countries that they want to avoid malfunctioning of these tools, they basically look at very similar approaches to the principles, whether it's from UNESCO, whether it's from United European Union, whether it's from OECD. So it's not that we can have this completely different areas. It's more or less similar, but of course, thoughts on AI policies in Thailand. Well, this is up to you. I think it's up to you to have this conversation between different stakeholders, between different between academia, between the agencies, ministries, and developed this policy. But I think what is probably the most important is this policy should be based on the international commitments. It cannot be kind of the commitments which are not based on international rules. So, is there anybody wants to participate more? If not, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for being part of this exciting project, and I hope we'll have also more opportunities to work in the future, in the next months, to contribute probably to somehow to the Thailand's policies towards artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.